Our vessel is dying. Expected news. Our vessel is dying. We've been doing tests, evaluating the evidence we've been gathering. Not one of us wanted to share what we've expected for the past 4 days. Even as the last batch of data was being fed into the computer, Tomas looked at me and said, "We'll see what the computer says." I remember his mouth flattened into a wide line, which reflected my own personal thoughts of what the results would be. So now we know. Our vessel is dying. I set about gathering supplies, making last preparations to hunker down. We don't know how long the process will take. We don't know what basic shape the curve of dying will make. It could be a long, protracted death, where slowly life leaks away. On the other hand, everything could be absolutely fine and functioning right near 100% for weeks, and then suddenly fail. It could be a blend of the two, wherein we are able to predict failure from a long tapering off of energy. We might be able to construct a timeline of our vessel's death. We might watch as 60% turns to 35% quite predictably, in anticipation of a final countdown to 0, only to have it cut violently short quite suddenly. I like this last outcome. I prefer a bang to a whimper, but I won't share with anyone else what I expect death to be like. Part of me worries that the prolonged timeline will go on too far, that we will watch as the final digits of life in our vessel tick away, and then still we will persist past the expected time of death. It would be taking that final airless inhale even after deflating the last breath out of the death whimper. It makes me shudder. 4 days was a long time to wait for a decision like that. We passed the time doing chores, exercising, playing games. I have let Tomas win at badminton several times. Though we are fairly evenly matched and it is always a good game, I would always beat him if I didn't let him win. I wonder if he lets me win at chess. I have now decided to stop letting him win as soon as possible. Perhaps Tomas makes the same decision in his mind because he challenges me to a game of chess and wins. The vessel is dying. Expected news. We gather together as a community and formally share the information that everyone already knows. It's a somber meeting, but probably rightly so. Is there anything we can do? Asks Carl. Carl is the only one amongst us without a formal scientific background. We can prepare ourselves, says Tomas. We can make ourselves comfortable with the inevitability of this. Tomas' answer doesn't sit well with Carl, who asks again, "Is there nothing we can do?" We have some amount of time, offers Karen, who is Carl's partner. She is showing us all that she will take care of Carl, and that she will show him through this time. It must be hard for Carl, whose background is not in science. The rest of us were expecting this news. We already knew that our vessel was dying. From Carl's perspective, this is so unexpected. I think again about my preference for a sharp decline that avoids such panic. While we all, except for Carl, are scientists, we are also fragile human beings who feel a sense of urgency. I watch Karen consoling Carl. I watch Carl melt into a puddle on the floor. I think again about my preference for a quick and painless end to the dying vessel. A death that avoids such panic would be my choice. It is not up to me, of course. I play Tomas every day in badminton and chess. We defend our unbeaten records against one another. I am glad that it is badminton that is my sport. The slow, calculated wins of chess seem like whimpering returns. By this, I mean that Tomas understands the inevitability of the game's outcomes before me. He knows that all of my final positioning is nothing but deflating whimpers moving toward my inevitable defeat. I wonder if he views my final moves of each game with a slight sense of pity, already knowing full well what the outcome will be. If it is not pity, then it is scientific detachment. The importance of sportsmanship seems more favorable to badminton's outcomes. I admit, Tomas is a better calculator than I. I see Carl in the corridor. We nod to each other from quite a distance away. As we approach each other, something compels me to invite Carl to play a match of badminton. He accepts, and we make a plan to play a little later. My duties seem important, though inevitably pointless. Of course, because there are others who depend upon me doing my duties, I continue without missing a beat. One of my duties is changing the vessel's shades. If I were to neglect this duty, it would result in sickness and, finally, death. The thought of neglecting my duty entered my mind one day, just after we received the news. Now, every time I change the shades, I think of neglecting this duty. I expect the thought will go away with time. It seems like one of those quirky things that happens to someone's mind when they spend too much time thinking to themselves. A few months back, every day, as I poured milk into my morning cup of coffee, the words, "It's a blonde," would pass through my mind. At first, it was quite involuntary. I watched with disinterest for a month as the same words, "It's a blonde," flashed through my mind at the moment when white milk colored black coffee. I tried to find some rational connection. Probably none existed. One day, I noticed that a month had passed without the words unconsciously coming to my mind, and that I had begun consciously saying them to myself. Of course, none of this made much sense. None of it mattered. Just the same, I expect the thought of neglecting my duties will go away with time. My duties, after all, cannot be neglected. Carl is not a terrible badminton player. I know that I will beat him only halfway through the match. That is, when the detachment begins to set in. I watch him move across the court, knowing what will happen next, where I must be in order to cause X to happen so that Y can be done. There are few surprises. At some point, I come to the realization that I am battling myself more than Carl. I take note of my own movements with the same kind of detachment. I am free from decisions as everything becomes predestined to happen. My foot moves here, followed by the arch of my arm there, which results in the movement of the shuttlecock from here to there. I look across the court at Carl, who still has a determined look on his face. I see hope play across his brow, see anticipation in his eyes. It makes me want to drag the game on. I begin to let Carl win in order to prolong the match. I see that a long, whimpering end has its moments, fleeting and important, but I won't share with anyone else what I expect death to be like.